Hi everybody, in today's video I'm going to show you how to draw a mouse sitting on a turtle's back and them hanging out with each other. If you want a little sneak peek, here it is. I kind of go step by step, I talk through it, try to break it down as conceptually as possible, but allowing margin for error for you to be creative in your own way too. So without further ado, we're going to begin.
I'm going to start with drawing the turtle's head. What I did here was I drew the eyes, and when I draw eyes, I tend to start in the middle of the head. Some people start higher, some people start lower. It's not good or bad, it just depends on the expression you want to give. And just as like a quick tip, people tend to do this, where it's like, okay, on this line is where you create the eyes, on this line is where you create the nose, below the nose is where you create the mouth, and generally you can have a foundation in how to draw what it is you want in terms of setting up the face correctly. But that's just for people who might not be aware of that little trick. So with that being said, if we were to follow that guideline, we could do a little nose over here. And when I look at turtles, I see they got like these tiny little nostrils, like these little curly cues. So I draw it like that. Now under eyes, what I like to do is add a little bit of expression. A lot of my illustrations, I like to depict joy. They're very simple. They're very, just simple and cute. There's nothing complicated with it. So when you do this, it looks like cheeks, and cheeks, when you smile, tend to squish into your eyes to give you the joyful expression. And if you want to go an extra step, you can even add those little laugh lines. I don't know, some people call them crow's feet, but I'm just like, they're happy. It's happiness. We shouldn't, say that joy is ugly. I think that's kind of messed up, but either way, whatever, it's all good. So here, what I'm gonna do is add the mouth. And with turtles, they don't have, you could do a simple smile like this. I think that's just as good as anything else. But if you want it to be maybe like a little bit more accurate to the turtle itself, I noticed that they have like a little beak. So you can add that little point there if you want. Some people might like it, some people might not. Choose whatever works best for you. Just like the cheek over here and the dimples over here, I add a little smile expression underneath. It just, again, gives a little bit more character and expression. Here we can complete the mouth and draw like a little U shape underneath. So you got a smile, very happy smile. Now what I want to do is have this turtle look at an animal on its shell, like they're friends. So what I'm going to do is add the eyes to go like this. And they might not be in the best direction right now because maybe the placement of the animal on the shell will change. But for now, I just want you to see the expression that I was able to create. And if you want for your turtle, draw like a little hat or whatever makes you happy with the cartoon you're creating. But for this sake, I'm just gonna draw, maybe 2 or 3 little hairs. All right, so now that we have the face, next I'm gonna do the shell. And the shell just looks like a rainbow. It's just a giant U. And since you're drawing with a pencil, feel free to make it as big or as small, and just trust yourself to make the shape. And then you can adjust accordingly. If you think the shell is too high, then you can start a little lower, like this. And you can erase the one that's too big for your taste. Okay, so here we have the shell, and we can end it over here so it's like connected, So it's a turtle with his head peeking out. Next, what I want to do is create the little rivets that are under the turtle's shell. And this just reminds me of like a birthday cake frosting. So just go up and down like a little wave. Honestly, just like this. Oops, you can't see too well. How about this? Adjust the proportions how you see fit, but it's a little wave. It's not too complicated. go up and down, connected at the end. And there you have the turtle shell. Next, what I want to do is create the shape on the turtle's back. And turtles, from what I found, have this shape repeating on their shell. I don't know what you call that. Maybe it's a gem cut. But feel free to play with the shape. I mean, you could even do circles, you can do squares, it can be whatever you want. But I'm just gonna do my best to follow the shape of what's true to a turtle shell in my mind's eye, if you want to say it that way. So here we have half, okay? I took this shape and I put it here. Now I'm just going to repeat the shape. Go like that. It's just two tips over here. It's two triangles, essentially, if you were to draw it down the middle. So you can do it like that, triangle. Now over here, the shape might get confusing because I know my brain sometimes just will create lines and it'll be like, all right, I'm done. So you can feel free just to do that. Just create whatever angle you want. But if you were to want to be as accurate to this shape and keep it consistent, just flip it over to give your brain the relief to be like, all right, yeah, if I'm going to create this shape again, and this is the point here is over here, the next line would be here, which is here. So what I have to do is go like this. And then you see how that connected itself because you're referencing these angles. Granted, the, what's it called? The angle here is different than the angle here. If you really want to, you can adjust it to make it perfect, but I tend to just leave it as is. So if that works over here and this was this side, then clearly you look at this side and you see you just draw the same line over here. Now these two are accurate, and this matches this because it's half of what this is. And you got your turtle shell. All right, now on the bottom, you want to draw the belly. And from what I've seen, like in cartoons, I don't know how accurate it is. I'm pretty sure they do have like these little divots. So feel free to draw as many or as little lines as you want. And over here, I'm gonna start with the legs. So the legs just look like really elongated rainbows. It's one leg. And then, you know, proportion-wise, you see how much space is here to the back leg? If you really were to want to be as precise, you can just kind of follow the same logic and say, all right, well, if this leg starts here, then I want this leg to start here. Because again, you're adhering to what the standard is you set on this side, okay? So we can erase those little guidelines, if you even drew them. And you can erase the part of the shell that you drew over. So now it looks like the leg is sitting into the belly. And if you were to want to draw the legs outside over here, the other ones, follow the same shape, but do less. So we're not even completing the half rainbow. We're just going to be doing a backwards L with a little bit of a belly. A little bit of a U shape. And the same applies over here. You want to end it, I mean, this is just what I did here, but if you are to end it a little bit sooner, it looks like the turtle is grounded on something. And, you know, looking at it, maybe I can move the legs a little bit back more, but that's besides the point. Just in the sake of proportion, you know, me looking at it now in hindsight. But generally, this is how I go about sketching the legs. Now we could simply do the tail over here, where it's like a witch hat, almost. But now you got the little tail. Like a shark fin, honestly. What if I were to do that? No, we're not gonna do that. Okay. So going back to the turtle, what you could do too for the legs if you want more detail is just copy the shape you had done over here. So we're gonna do little toenails. So you got 1, 2, 3. This also matches kind of the rhythm of the line over here. A lot of these shapes are repeating. They're just either longer, fatter, wider, shorter. So you get an idea of maybe not psyching yourself out as much, thinking it's as super difficult. And I understand if you're not naturally given a gift of sketching, it can definitely come off as difficult. But once you can conceptualize that these shapes repeat themselves, it makes it a lot easier to understand. So you're gonna do the same thing over here. I'm gonna do the same thing over here. Cool. And you know, if you were to really want to, what's it called? Knock it out of the park with this, I guess in my point of view, I got this ruler in 5th grade, dare. You would want to do, or you'd want to understand where this hits and then make sure that it's in alignment with this leg. So technically I should be drawing this down a little bit more so it makes sense and it's grounded. But then you'd also see, oh, this leg looks a lot higher than this one, so does that make sense? And in that theory, what I would do is honestly just bring this belly down a little bit more so it hides. And then you could sneak bringing this down further to make it look a little bit more grounded and a little bit more even. And just repeat the toenails. Maybe I'll make it a little bit bigger. Cool. All right, well, now that we have the ground here, might as well just continue it. Eyeballing it, you know? And with the ground, I mean, have fun with what you put on it. What I used to always do as a kid is I would erase parts of the feet just to look like they were situated in the grass. And I would do it by creating like these little spikes. So I'll do little spikes here, little spikes there. So keep continuing with the little grass if you want to do that. I also like to draw flowers or mushrooms or even water sometimes, but what we can do just to maybe keep it in theme with the animal I'm going to draw on top is I'm going to draw a couple of daisies. And how you draw a flower is, again, just by repeating this shape, this rainbow shape. And then you turn it into like a clover. And inside goes a circle. And with flowers, what I like to do is add these little dimples to give it something extra on top of a cute little leaf with another dimple. There you go. I can maybe do one on this side too. Add a leaf if you want, but it just gives a little bit more to the drawing itself. So I guess the last detail I would include on the turtle, if I was to do anything else, would be to maybe put little knee marks over here by having it look like, I guess like extended views, like they're stretched out, but do one over the other, and then the ones that go outside of them are a little bit bigger. So they just look like the little dents that your knee makes when you bend your knees. Don't have to, but it's an extra detail. So there we have a turtle. And then on top over here, what I wanted to do was draw a character for the turtle to bond with or to be connected to. So like you see more joy in the characters. So what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna draw a mouse, and I'm gonna start by drawing like a potato or like a kidney bean. Maybe a pear, you know. Whatever your brain sees, you do that. Or do whatever animal, but here I'm gonna do a mouse. So after drawing your kidney bean, we're gonna draw 2 big ears similar to like Mickey Mouse on either side. And with ears, I like to add the little detail here where it's almost like the grass. Like it looks like it's pointed inside. So draw a line and then point, point. So it looks like hair, kinda. All right. Now, what I want to do for the expression, we can follow the same guideline as I brought up before, how we had like this cross. You can do that for yourself. And if we were to follow that, then in theory, the eyes could be here. I'm gonna do like joyful, happy eyes. You know, kind of like the anime cartoons that eventually go like this. You know, for joy. We're gonna work with that today. So we have those happy eyes. And this is where I'm gonna put the nose because it was on that base of the cross that helps you guide it. Let me move a little bit closer so you see what I'm doing here. And then the mouth would be, again, 2 more U's. So we got 2 U's here, little triangle, and 2 more U's. And then here, to complete the mouth, what do? Another U. So you see how these shapes just stack. They're upside down, they're just stretched, they're a little bit longer. Here you could do teeth, no surprise, another U. Maybe a little line, so it looks like they're buck teeth. And then you can color this in. So when I'm looking at this, I feel like my face is a little too big for the face I originally started with. So what I'm gonna do is add a little bit more room to it, a little bit bigger, so it's more proportionate to the rest of the body. So I did that, increase the face. Now I'm gonna draw the rest of the body, okay? In here, like I did on this side, if you can remember, and with the cheeks, I draw these little happy joy lines, okay? Same goes here, and then you could do a little blush. It's a happy mouse. On the top, just like the grass down here with these little marks, you can do the same here by adding a little bit of hair on top of his head. Gives it a little bit more character. Now for the rest of his body, what I'm gonna do is start with his feet. And I'm gonna draw 2 big ovals. And just like over here, how I erased in between, you're gonna do the same over here where there's lines here and here to make it look like the feet are on top of the body. All right. Now for toes, you can just do simple lines. Like I'm gonna draw it over here. You could do simple lines like that and call it a day. Or if you wanted more detail, if you wanted to do this, take the oval shape you had created and make it puff. Puff out, puff out, puff out. Now you have a foot. Then you can add padding too. And now you have an animal foot. In this case, instead of doing this, I like to make the oval and then kind of curl like a wave. So you start with that. And depending on what side this foot is, let's say this would be your left foot, this would be the big toe. So I'm gonna draw padding there, padding there, padding there, so it gets smaller. Padding here for the heel, and then padding there as well. So it's like these little curls give you more dimension than it being flat like this. Neither is good or bad, it just kind of depends on what you want to do. I think for the sake of how small this is, it might be easier to do this, but I'm still going to try to pull off that one. So I'm just going to apply my logic. I'm going to do, oops, I should have started on this side actually. Yeah, let me start on that side and do it the way I said. So this is the big toe. It's going to be the biggest one. This is going to be secondary. This is going to be the smallest. So now you see hierarchy. Same over here. This is the biggest. This is secondary. And this is the smallest. And if you want to add the padding, you can add the padding. I'm not going to bother with the toes. It looks too small to me. But there you have your feet. Next, because we have the face, because we have the feet, because we got the little belly here, we know where to put the hands. And for the hands, I'm just going to do little blobs. because it's cute. No other reason other than that. I mean, there's so much detail already as it is, you might get lost with all the additional that you do. So it kind of looks like a squirrel, you know, when they put their hands together like this, like against their belly, and they just look at you like they, like you have food and they want it. So we got that. But what I wanted him to do initially was to hold a flower. So I'm gonna put a stem here that runs through here. And, you know, since we're done with this, I'm gonna erase that. And over here, we're gonna copy what we did with the flower over here. We're gonna do those U's I mentioned. So we got a bunch of U's, U after U, and then we have the circle with little dimples. And I mean, if you wanted to draw a leaf, we can do that. Just, you know, when it's in something's way, like the line here or here, just erase it. And a leaf is like a flame. If you were to compare it to like this, in a way, it's got that roundness. But if you were to really want to start with that and not know what to do, let's try this. Just do a teardrop. It's a triangle and a U. So we got a triangle and we got a U. And that can help you better understand how to create that shape. And then if you want, you know, if you don't want it to be just a teardrop, you can add a little bit of a curve. And that's how you would make it turn. Then you could add the divot there. So I'm gonna add the divot here too. And there you got your leaf. And last but not least, what I want to do is create the tail. So I'm just looking at how big this is, and I don't want the tail to get lost. I'm thinking about space. So you want to see how much space this flower takes up, how busy it is over here, and how there's nothing over here. Maybe what I want to do is make the tail long, a little fat so it stands out, and you see where it is, as opposed to it being super skinny and what's it called? Super skinny, and it would get lost with the rest of the detail. So the tail might be a little confusing and harder to do, harder to position and find out. But once you get a rhythm for where you think it would best fit in context to everything else, it balances out. So if you were to look at this mouse and put it in a box, you'd see that a majority of it is pretty much covered. You have space here, you have space here, and that's a good thing. You don't want to overwhelm an amount of space with content, unless that's your goal. But if you wanted to conceptualize it better with that box, you can understand, you could rationalize why your cartoon might look a lot more busy and lopsided than not. Just draw a box around it and then say, oh, right, yeah. You know, maybe the tail would be too big over here, and so then you would have to shift it over here a little bit, or maybe make it really small, or even what you could do is put it down here and curl it. So there's more flow. The curl of the tail could lead to the rest of the turtle, which would then bring you to the ground, and then you see all of these shapes and this flower that leads back up to the face. So after me creating all of this, you can see that there are some places that still had some erased marks. So I'm gonna just redraw those in. And there you go. That's your turtle, that's your mouse. I hope you guys liked it. Let me know what you think.